topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Well, hello and good afternoon. Bill Martinez here with you, and got a real treat for you. Christina Bobb, new book. We had spoken with her, I think, about a year and a half ago about the election, the 2024 election, and she's got a new book titled "Defiant: Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare." There's so much to this story, as you know instinctively, and you knew from day one there was. And fortunately for us, Christina was there as an eyewitness, as an ear witness to everything that happened on that incredible day when the FBI came upon Mar-a-Lago to invade the president's personal home. And I know you're probably still wondering, how could this be in the United States of America? Well, this is a gripping firsthand expose of the coordinated legal, and I underline that, a coordinated legal and political attack against Donald Trump and his allies, revealing the deep state's efforts to undermine democracy. Christina Bobb, welcome to the show. Good to have you with us.
Hey, Bill.
Well, Christina, I'm glad you could join us to talk about this book, Defiant: Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. Welcome to the show. Good to have you with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have everyone hear your story because this is firsthand. This is eyewitness, ear witness. You were there at Mar-a-Lago when this all came about, and little did you know. I think you were sensitive as I was reading your book. Your spidey senses kicked into gear to realize that you were being pulled into a bit of a hot potato, and understanding that the deep state had already gone after Donald Trump in many ways. And of course, with your investigations and things that you had come to reveal and realize with the 2020 election, you knew you had to be on guard. And of course, the way not only the president, the lawfare that was executed against him, but other attorneys as well. So you instinctively knew that you were on kind of hallowed ground here, right?
Yeah, it was pretty clear that the Department of Justice was not actually after justice. They were purely operating on political motivation to try to silence and thwart their political opponent, Donald Trump. And they were willing to go to extraordinary lengths to do so. They were willing to throw innocent Americans in prison. Most of them were the January 6ers. Right. They were willing to upend the lives of many great Americans who have worked hard, loved this country. Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows, John Eastman, Jeff Clark. There are a lot of really great Americans that
Peter Navarro. The list is long and
yes, it's a very long list, actually. Right. Exactly. And then they were also willing to destroy lives of Americans that just were in the mix, like myself and my colleagues that might not have had the name of Donald Trump or Rudy Giuliani, but I was there working with them, on behalf of their political objectives. And as a result, I wasn't allowed to continue the work that I was doing. They were going to do everything they could to stop me, and they were going to use the force of the Department of Justice to do so. The Department of Justice, I was investigated by everybody: Congress, the Department of Justice, the state of Arizona, the California Bar, the FBI. I had everybody come after me in the span of the Department of Homeland Security in about 3 years, 6 months in and 6 months prior to the end of the Biden administration. They threw everything they had at me. I'm still a criminal defendant as we speak. Their case is falling apart, thankfully, but they are still trying to destroy the lives of Americans who were contesting the 2020 election.
I don't think people understand how diabolical this is and what this was like for you, personally. Here you are, former Marine. You were you were in the judge advocate, right? In the Marine Corps.
Yep, I was judge advocate.
Yeah, so you served the Marine Corps. You get out of the Marine Corps. You go into private practice, And along the way, you end up doing some work for Donald Trump. And explain how that began, your relationship with President Trump.
Right. So I got out of the Marine Corps and joined the Trump administration, the first Trump administration. I was at the Department of Homeland Security for that. I was the executive secretary there. And that was during the Miles Taylor, Chad Wolf, Chris Krebs era, where they were all kind of running interference on the Department of Homeland Security. And so I knew I very much and was very vocal in support of President Trump. And so I knew I wasn't going to really get anywhere with that crowd. So I decided to get out and try to come back in. Of course, I thought he was going to win the 2020 election. I believe he did win, but I thought he was going to have his.
You and about 90% of America thought.
Yeah. And so I thought he would have his second term right away. And so my plan was to get out and then come back in, in a different capacity. And I ended up going to One American News. I left the Trump administration, went to One American News, and I mean, what a time to become a reporter, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Especially with all this inside information that you have with you. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So it worked out. I became a reporter, less than 6 months prior to the 2020 election. I ended up covering the 2020 election. I was there on election night. That's my first book, actually, Stealing Your Vote. Right. But through that process, I actually got to know the president because he was following my reports. He was watching what I was reporting on, and I developed a connection with him that way. And then, obviously the election didn't go the way we all anticipated it going. And so I continued to report on the election, and I continued to investigate and figure out what was going on in all of these states. And through my investigation, the president said, we're putting together a team. I'm making a comeback in 24. Why don't you join my team and help me secure the election for 2024, which is ultimately what I did. So I began officially working for him in 2022.
Well, in Stealing Your Vote, the inside story of the 2020 election, what it means for 2024, your first book, just surmise that real quick for our audience.
Yeah, well, the way I like to summarize it is Democrats cheated and Republicans covered it up. It was very much a bipartisan effort to get Donald Trump out of the political game. I mean, we all saw what happened on Election Day with them keeping Republicans out of the counting rooms, boarding up the windows, the midnight ballot dumps. I mean, the list goes on and on. Prior to that, they set up the mail-in ballot issue with COVID. That gave them emergency authorization, which they meaning these liberal state secretaries of state and governors created these emergency plans where they just changed election law
on the fly. Yeah, exactly.
On the fly, right. So the whole manner in which the election was conducted was illegal. And that, that kind of blindsided everybody because we were dealing with COVID and everyone was kind of like, well, what are we supposed to do with this? And so that created a bunch of questions and a bunch of problems. And then the Republicans either didn't bother to fight it initially. And then after the fact, the Republicans were covering it up. I mean, especially in places like Pennsylvania and Michigan, it was the Republicans really working against those of us who were trying to fight for transparency and trying to do audits. And I spent a lot of time in Arizona on the ground during that audit in 2021. I reported live from the Arizona audit, I think almost every single day.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it was the Republicans that really tried to sweep it all under the rug.
I think people are going to be surprised when they first hear. And of course, we reported on this and you were on the show before and we talked about, the Republican cover up. Again, can you unwrap that just a little bit more?
Yeah. Well, so for example, the Arizona audit was initiated by the Republican Senate in response to the Republican constituent or the constituents in Arizona saying, hey, we don't trust the results of our election. We want an audit. So the Arizona Senate launched an audit. The people of Pennsylvania started doing the same thing, started clamoring for an audit in Pennsylvania. And it was the Republican Senate in Pennsylvania that shut it down. They said, no, we're not going to look into this. And it was Jake Corman specifically was the president of the Senate in Pennsylvania, Republican, who did everything he could to thwart the effort. There was I think it's called the Government Accountability Committee or something, some similar name to that.
Right.
Where they were planning on investigating through their committee and the president shut it down. I mean, same thing happened in Wisconsin. They wanted an audit in Wisconsin. the Republican Speaker of the Assembly in Wisconsin was the one that shut down the audit that the people wanted and instead hired this, other team to do it. And then when the people continued to push back on that, he finally appointed a special counsel to do an investigation in Wisconsin. And the special counsel found that there was a prima facie case for bribery and that the election in Wisconsin was conducted illegally, and they disbarred him for it. So rather than actually take it into consideration, say, hey, we need to prosecute these people, they disbarred the special counsel who made the finding that that the election was conducted illegally and a violation of bribery laws in Wisconsin. And that we see the same thing in Georgia. I
was going to ask you the same thing in Georgia, right?
Yeah, same. And it's all Republicans. Michigan, it was a Republican House and Senate in Michigan, which they buried it. They issued a report saying you should consider prosecuting people who are challenging the elections. This was a Republican recommendation. So it was really the Republicans that targeted the Trump supporters.
Wow. What was it? Just the Republicans, the rhinos in that, or just they were just so disturbed by the things that Donald Trump was doing because he was an outsider? I mean, what is the basis of this? Of this relentless attack against President Trump, especially after all the good things he did in his first term?
Yeah. Well, I don't know everyone's individual motivation, but what it appears to me, if I could paint with a broad brush, it appears that Donald Trump was changing the political landscape. He was changing the way the game was played. He was changing the level of transparency. He was extraordinary and continues to be extraordinarily accessible. He communicates directly with the people, and the people were starting to want more information from the government, and we're trying to hold the government accountable. And the Republicans didn't want that either, just like Democrats don't want that. Right. So I think the establishment Republicans didn't want the level of transparency that MAGA wanted. And Donald Trump was driving that was his agenda. And so they just worked really hard to get him out.
Well, Christina, the thing is that all that Donald Trump was revealing was the stuff that the majority of Americans suspected.
Yeah.
We suspected that all the three-letter agencies in our government were corrupt. We just didn't have evidence. We just everybody just spoke about it anecdotally, suspected this was the case because, you didn't have to be a genius. I think sometimes we analyze this stuff, but I always say, just look at the fruit on the tree. Yeah. The fruit on the tree is quite telling, and it's very obvious. And here it is. And thank God for Donald Trump beginning to reveal it. Now it's up to we, the people, the basis of our Constitution, to do something about it. They spoke loud and clear in 2024, but still the resistance continues, right?
Yeah, I think it does. I think you're right. They spoke very loud in 2024. And I think we're continuously moving more towards being able to hold the government accountable, but it's not at all a sure thing. I think the fact that there's been an indictment on former FBI Director James Comey, I think that's a great first step. It goes to show that the indictments do go both ways. The liberals just want to throw conservatives in prison without being held accountable for their own actions. So I'm happy to see that indictment. I want to see more. I expect to see something come for Bolton. And then, I've heard all the rumblings that everybody else has heard, but I want to see them. I want to see the indictments come out. But yeah, I expect to see more on the way.
I was kind of teasing the other day with our daily audience, Christina, that Donald Trump and Melania were walking on the beach and they came across some shells that said, indict Comey.
Right. It just so happened.
I was waiting for that meme. I thought somebody surely is going to put that meme up there.
Yeah, I think I saw something like that. Everyone changing Comey's stupid little beach walk.
I know. Incredible. But so here, this lawfare is just bubbling up, and it's almost like it really forced. And this is the thing about Donald Trump. He's such a catalyst for exposure. He's exposing the corruption on both sides, to your point. They just can't help themselves now. And guess what? The closet door is wide open. Everybody's looking in and saying, this is unacceptable.
Yeah, there needs to be more exposure, but I think his second term is off to a much better start than his first term. And I think Tulsi Gabbard has done an amazing job
Right.
revealing what she's revealed. I expect to see a lot more coming out of her office. I think Kash Patel, like I said, the indictment of Comey, I think is really good. I'm so proud of Lindsay Halligan. I consider her a friend. She's in the book. She was with me at Mar-a-Lago. So I disclose our conversations there, but yeah,
Well,
I think.
I want to talk about that day at Mar-a-Lago and how you were brought into and finding yourself there on the property on that day that makes you an eyewitness and an ear witness to all the events. And it's almost the criminal activity by the FBI, isn't it?
For sure. Yes, I think it is. I think I allude to that in the book as well. I thought everything was illegal. Everything that they were doing was illegal. They never had probable cause to raid Mar-a-Lago. In order to get the warrant, they had to lie to a judge that had, I think it was 6 weeks prior, had recused himself from the Trump v. Clinton case because he said he was incapable of being impartial. And then they take an affidavit to the judge who has already said he's incapable of being impartial, and they lie to him. They don't disclose the fact that President Trump himself, not just his legal team, but President Trump himself was incredibly transparent. He said to their faces, you can see whatever you want. You want me to show you around Mar-a-Lago? What do you want? They did not disclose any of that in the affidavit, and the affidavit itself was very misleading into basically trying to say that President Trump was obstructing justice. I mean, ultimately, that's what they charged him with. It was never true. They never had any evidence for it, but they had to charge him with that because they couldn't bring the case they wanted to bring in Washington, D.C. The original case was in Washington, D.C. The grand jury subpoena came out of Washington, D.C. They were trying to create this Hillary Clinton email scandal, espionage type case about Donald Trump. And they thought for sure, if we can just raid Mar-a-Lago, if we can just get into his storage closet, we'll be able to show something. And they couldn't. They never got the evidence. So they couldn't get a conviction. I'm sorry, they couldn't get an indictment in Washington, D.C. So they had to move to Florida.
Christina, did you ever figure out what it was that they were really looking for? I mean, yes, trip up Donald Trump, get in the way, let's invalidate another potential presidential run. It seems like there's more to the story. They were looking for something, it seems to me.
I think their Trump derangement syndrome got the better of them. Yes, I think they were looking for a unicorn. They wanted to show that Donald Trump is selling secrets to the Russians or, whatever crazy idea they had in their mind, but it was never true. There was never anything there, which is why they didn't recover anything to support that crazy theory because it wasn't true. So I've heard theories about them trying to recover Crossfire hurricane documents, which is totally possible.
Right.
Part of me kind of finds it hard to believe that they actually thought there would be Crossfire hurricane documents there because we had shown them the storage room. We had shown them where the documents were. And it's like a storage closet. You know what I mean? Like everyone's hall closet when you walk in the door and throw your coats in there. That's basically what it was. Right. I mean, it's a billionaire's version of that, but that's, this was not like a highly classified, super secret storage facility. It was secure. I mean, it had multiple locks on it. It was in a very private area of Mar-a-Lago, but it was just a storage unit.
Well, even in the previous visit, the FBI, the thing they told them is said, "Well, can you put another lock on the door?"
Yeah, and but there already were locks. It was guarded by Secret Service. It was guarded by private security. It's on a private residence. It was much more secure than any of the other locations that prior presidents had stored their documents. So there was no reason for the FBI to be concerned about access to the documents. The documents were secured.
So you're telling us it was much more secure than Joe Biden's garage.
It was more secure than Joe Biden's garage or the Penn Biden Center, the Chinese, the CCP paid for center. I think George Bush had his in a strip mall somewhere. Donald Trump's documents were much, much more secure than any of the prior presidents. So,
right. So here it is. I mean, you're about your business and you get a phone call. It says, Christina, we need you to be on location at Mar-a-Lago. Do you got some time on your hands? Can you go there and observe the FBI? There's going to be this nondescript kind of meeting, everything but coffee and high tea.
Pretty much, yeah.
but your gut tells you if the FBI is involved, there's more to this, right?
Well, clearly, I mean, I was flying blind, as you said, I wasn't part of prior conversations, but obviously if the FBI is involved, they're clearly trying to set Donald Trump up for something. I mean, why would the FBI be involved if they weren't trying to manufacture criminal activity, which ultimately is obviously what they did.
Right.
So I was very cautious about participating. Of course, I did participate because, what are you going to do? You can't ignore the FBI, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did participate, and ultimately, everything played out the way that it should have from our perspective. Donald Trump never should have been indicted. Walt Nato and Carlos de Oliveira never should have been indicted. None of the indictment, none of the criminal proceedings ever should have happened, and they never should have destroyed their lives and upended their lives the way that they did. But they were released from the indictment as they should have been. And where things stand today, at least as the Jack Smith cases go, is correct. Nobody was actually prosecuted other than Donald Trump.
But meanwhile, like you say, their lives, and some people are not necessarily in a position. I mean, you've gone through a strain, and it's not cheap when you're getting sued and having to go through all you're going through. Yeah. And you have people who are not familiar with the legal system, and they're being put through the drain and everything and drug inside and out. Yep. I mean, I pray that these people, here, they're in service to the president. I mean, they're just there to, help around the house and that sort of thing. And I'm sure President Trump has made them whole as much as he can. But this has got to just been, and I think the psychological impact of it has just got to have been tremendous.
Oh, it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. Like I said, I'm still going through it now. I'm still racking up monthly legal bills because the state of Arizona still wants to say that, I tried to overthrow the United States government or something stupid like that.
Yeah. Here you are, a former Marine, taking an oath that lasts forever till the day we die, that we will protect our government and the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And you are doing everything to violate that oath. Yes, right.
Right. That's what they're trying to say. They don't have any evidence for it, which is why the indictment's been thrown out. But they haven't closed the case. So I'm still working to get that case closed. I'm hoping that will come soon, but still open for now. They still are, defaming me by parading around saying I'm a criminal. The Dominion lawsuit was pretty devastating to me because you had all of these pundits on TV saying I was a liar. Ultimately, that case was also dismissed. But they did a lot of damage. I mean, this lawfare is incredibly damaging.
Well, yeah. I mean, even to this day, I mean, you've got senators and congressmen, at hearings just saying, making statements and challenging anybody who had any questions about the 2020 election. Yep. And being very mean-spirited about it. And the way in which they do it, it's quite obvious that either they themselves are not sure and believe it. I mean, you've got, according to the polling, over 60% of America, and I think it's probably about 66, 67% of America does not believe in the 2020 election to this day. So it's like, who are you trying to convince, me or the, 3/4 or 2/3 of the American voter?
Yeah, well, I think they're counting on destroying the integrity of our election. I mean, that's the way they keep power, is by rigging the election, not by trying to win over hearts and minds. They're not trying to win anybody over because they're pushing everybody away. They're so far left that they're pushing everybody to the right. So I don't think they have any real desire to win anyone over. I think they just want to rig the elections. They want no voter ID. They want all mail-in ballots. They want to make it as difficult as possible to have a clean, fair election so that they can just steal the elections to stay in power. That's what they want.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's all about power and control, is what Lindsey Graham stated, as you'll recall. And, that's what it is for them. Christina, do you have a sense that, I mean, yes, it became real obvious that they stole the election in 2020, or they're up to the shenanigans, whether it was Smartmatic or Dominion, and more, we see a lot of smoke. We're still looking for, some real fire. And I think we've touched on some fire, but the courts don't want to acknowledge it. People are reticent to acknowledge it, like you say, the establishment and that. But you have this sense that this is something that's been going on for a long time. And it's just one of those things that, like on every trajectory, it starts out where it's a little bit bad, and each election cycle, it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah. Yes, I do think COVID was especially bad. 2024 wasn't as bad as 2020 was because we didn't have COVID, right?
Right.
So,
but it didn't stop him from trying.
No, that's true. That's true. So yeah, we still have a long way to go about cleaning things out. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We're working on it. I think we can get there, but nothing is for sure, right? That's why every election cycle matters. Volunteer, become a poll watcher or poll observer, whatever. People need to be involved in the process. The more people we have from each community involved, the better it's going to be. And I think we'll get to a point where it's more secure than it is today. I don't think it's ever going to be 100% secure because every year someone's trying to cheat, right?
Right, exactly. So, well, systemically, it's a problem. And this is why Trump and many of us believe, get back to 1 day of voting. Everybody takes the day off, just like we used to. 1 day of voting. It's mail-in ballots only. If you happen to be in the military or there's some extreme emergency or something, some way that you can't make it to the poll in that day, that's it. No mail-in voting, and your vote counts on that day. You're not going to have 30 days in which your vote can count, because the more time that you give, it opens up that opportunity to cheating. So you got to eliminate all those avenues potentially that could promote a breakdown in the integrity of the vote, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I think 1 day voting, same day voting, very rare exceptions for mail-in ballots. I think we need to get back to the precinct level rather than having these big voting centers like the State Farm Arena and these big county-wide voting centers. I think the ballots need to be counted at the precinct level. That makes it significantly harder to cheat. But yeah, no, I agree. I think we can get there. We got to clean some things out first, but we can get there.
Well, I think we can get there with Donald Trump, and we can get there with another. This is why we need, when the election was going on in 2024, I said 4 + 8. People are saying 4 years. No, I go 4 + 8. You got to think in terms of 12 years. The Democrats, combined between Obama and Biden, had 12 years. And then some. You could probably even count a percentage of the Donald Trump first term because of all the shenanigans they were doing in the background, right?
No, I think that's right. I think Donald Trump is going to get us off to a really good start with cleaning this up. I think it's going to be incumbent upon the next incoming president to finish that job. But I have no doubt that Donald Trump is going to do everything he can and get us pretty far down the road about cleaning all of this up. But it definitely will be a multi-cycle thing.
But it's clear we need somebody like a Donald Trump who's got a spine and is committed to the American people and the American idea. Now, getting back to Mar-a-Lago, that day you're there and they didn't even, you offered, hey, I'll help you. I got keys. I'll help you out here. They wanted nothing with it. They kept you outside in the heat, right?
Yeah, they wouldn't let me observe what they were doing. So Mar-a-Lago, it's an estate, and they were looking in a couple different areas around the estate. I could see what they were doing between the rooms that they were looking in, because they would have to go outside, on the sidewalk to go in between the rooms. So I could see that. I could see what they were carrying in and out of the rooms. I just couldn't see what they were doing in the rooms. They would not allow me to accompany them when they were actually doing the search, which I thought was very weird. They're not required to allow me to hover over them for the entire time, but they wouldn't let me see anything, which to me, that struck me as very suspicious.
And of course, they didn't want you there when they arranged, the mess, the picture of documents strewn on the floor, like as if that was Donald Trump's personality, right?
Yeah. Well, I saw them carry those cover sheets into the office.
Yes.
So those were cover sheets that they brought with them, at least from my perspective. They later argued in court that they found them on site. I do not believe they did. I think because I saw them carry them in a clear Rubbermaid bin. They carried them into the office, which actually is not how you're supposed to carry the cover sheets, but it's what they were doing. So, I wasn't allowed to be in the room when they did it, but I basically watched them stage that photo.
Do you even know, Christina, if every one of those officials were authorized to handle top secret information?
I don't
Classified
know. I
information.
imagine they probably were. I would be surprised if they weren't. Having a security clearance, and don't forget, it was being run out of Washington, D.C. And
Mhm.
so most of everybody who works in the federal government in Washington, D.C. has some level of a clearance. So I suspect that they all did, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it just seems that as fast and loose as they were operating, and that's the thing about people that lie. It's like my dad used to say, if you lie, you better have a great memory. And you better be real good at dotting your I's and crossing your T's. And this is what we're finding out right now with the Obama administration, even the Biden administration. They were so deceptive that they can't possibly come. They don't even remember all the lies. And all of a sudden you find burn bags that are just lying around in a closet somewhere. You talk about Joe Biden's garage. I mean, are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't I don't think that they are going to be able to keep their story straight. I'm just hopeful, and I'm so grateful for Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard that are actually doing the investigation to pull this out. I'm eager to see what they come up with. Obviously, we need a lot more exposure than what we currently have.
Mhm.
I'm hopeful that they are doing that, but I mean, we gotta gut this information because there's been so much that has been covered up. It's essential to our country to clean out the rot.
Right. And I think that the tough hill to climb here, Christina, is that people can suspect that it's corrupt and it's a problem. They just don't know how bad it is. And then when you
Yeah.
you begin to realize, the deception that took place with Crossfire Hurricane and
Yep.
how this stuff led to the Oval Office, and many of us who did any kind of research and studying on this knew that Barack, and we still maintain Barack Obama had to orchestrate this. I mean, he's of course covered because he was the
Yeah.
president of the United States, and who's
Well,
going to
I
go
I
after him?
wouldn't be that generous. We have a Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity. It is not absolute. That's why Donald Trump's case wasn't dismissed, because it's not
Mhm.
absolute immunity.
Right.
So I don't know. I think Barack Obama is fair game. I haven't seen all of the evidence. I don't know what they're pulling out, and I firmly believe in innocent until proven guilty. So I don't want to
Yeah.
say
But
anything out of
see,
turn.
this looks like a duck and talks like a duck. I mean, you look at, Hillary Clinton, John Kerry, James Comey, all these people out of his administration. I mean, this seems like a playbook that sounds
Yeah.
familiar with what Barack Obama did with Lois Lerner and the Tea Party.
Yeah.
Kind of wink, wink, and
Well,
because he knew the Tea Party was causing a lot of disruption, and he was going to have problems with his reelection campaign.
Well, yeah, and who ran the prosecutions from DOJ for the Tea Party, for all of that through the IRS? You know who ran that?
Who?
Jack Smith.
Oh, yes, that's right. I did know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jack
Right.
Smith did that, and then they appointed him to do the same thing for Donald Trump after he had also done the same thing for Bob McDonnell for when he was running for governor of Virginia, which that case was overturned unanimously at the United States Supreme Court. So this is Jack Smith's playbook. That's why they
Yeah.
brought him in, to do exactly what you're describing.
Right. I mean, you talk about a lot of good lawyers. I think of John Eastman, Sidney Powell, yourself, others that have been kneecapped by the Democratic Party's Justice Department and what they've done to all of you. And you look at Jack Smith and Mark Elias and some of these others, and you go, what are these guys doing with a law license?
Yes, I think that all the time. I had to fight for my law license.
Yeah.
I was reported to the bar. There were a dozen people that reported me to the bar, and I had to fight to keep my license. I thankfully was successful. I did get to keep my license.
Thank God.
They found no misconduct on my part, which is amazing. I'm so grateful for that.
Well, you're a Marine. Marines don't misconduct.
No, but neither did John Eastman or Rudy
Right.
Giuliani.
Yeah.
And my license is in California, or at least the one that I was fighting for was in California. And I thought for sure they're
Wow.
going to disbar me just because I'm, with Donald Trump. They didn't, which I was grateful for. But that is the concern, is they're taking out the conservative attorneys who are willing to fight. So eventually no one's going to be willing to fight, and we're not going to have any resistance to the tyrannical takeover that we're seeing. That's their goal.
Well, in your book, Defiant, Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare, you relate your meeting with Donald Trump to tell him, saying, hey, this is what I'm, I kind of want your blessing on this to make sure it's
Yeah.
okay. And tell us about that meeting in the Oval.
Yeah. So I needed his permission to publish the book because all the information that I have is attorney-client privilege because I was on his legal team at the time. So he had to give me permission to publish it.
Right.
And thankfully he did. And he also did the foreword for it, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, I took the manuscript to him and said, hey, I want to basically tell everybody everything, tell them what actually happened. And I've got text messages and emails and all my dialogue and all the back and forth with the Department of Justice. And I showed him what I had, and he didn't delay at all. He said, yeah, great. I want to help you get it out. Just get it out. So he was very transparent through the whole thing. He wrote the foreword to try to help, raise awareness, to let people know, like, hey, this is actually what happened.
Right.
So yeah,
did he take exception to anything?
No, not a single thing. He did not ask me to change a single thing.
Wow. It's amazing. And I appreciate your wiring. I mean, you are a copious note taker.
I really am.
This has been your life, right? I mean, you were a little kid, you were taking notes. I mean, you were taking notes for Santa Claus even, right?
Right. Yeah, but I kept all my notes. I knew, obviously, as soon as I found out the FBI and DOJ were involved, I was like, okay, this is going to go to litigation at some point. So I need to record everything that's happening to make sure that if I have a lawyer, which ultimately I did, my lawyer knows exactly what's going on. I just want a record of what's happening. So I did. I took notes within days of every meeting, within days of the raid, within days of every single event that transpired throughout the process. I just documented everything. And I took pictures, and, I just made a record of everything that happened. And so actually putting the book together was actually quite easy because I just took everything I had and I just put it together. I was like, well, there's a book. So
well, that's amazing. And God bless you for being that way. And although I imagine for some people that want to run the edges and stuff like that, you're probably a bit of an annoyance, but
most definitely.
but the deal is, see, this is the thing, unfortunately, our culture has gotten to the point where truth is no longer a defense, it's an offense. And so anytime you bring the truth, people are going to be offended. In fact, here recently with the murder of Charlie Kirk, he's out there promoting the truth, and it cost him his life.
Yeah, no, it's true. The truth of what Defiant is, it is a true and correct relay of everything that I experienced and everything that I witnessed and everything I saw. I don't think anybody's going to be able to refute it, really, because and I say this in a note in the beginning, it comes from emails, text messages, eyewitness accounts that are captured on CCTV footage, on security camera footage, and my negotiations back and forth with the Department of Justice. So it's pretty tight. I don't think anybody's going to be able to refute what I'm saying because it's all so well documented and recorded that I testified under oath multiple times about all of this.
Right.
That I just don't think anybody can say that what I'm saying isn't accurate.
Well, and the thing is that when you are, sold out on the truth, you don't have to make up stories. You don't have to remember stuff. And your testimony is consistent, right? Because if it was inconsistent at any point, they would shred you to no end.
Yep. No, that's very true. And I've testified under oath multiple times before the January 6th committee, before I was interviewed and interrogated by both the Department of Justice and the FBI. I testified before the grand jury. I testified before the California State Bar, all on this set of facts. Well, Congress was the January 6th stuff, but other than Congress, all my other testimonies are all related to Mar-a-Lago case, and nothing was inconsistent.
Right.
So,
yeah. And the January 6th is a whole nother deal. I feel for all these citizens and what they've gone through. I mean, compared to what BLM and Antifa had done to our country, and here, these people were in shock. They go there to exercise their constitutional right, and they're invited into the Capitol in many cases. And now we're finding out that there were over 40 is all documented now. There's no question about it. They, thank God for Kash Patel and Bongino there are now revealing the truth of the fact that we had over 36 FBI agents on the ground there.
274.
Now it's 274. Right.
274 FBI agents. And the part that's particularly disgusting about that is they manufactured convictions of these people without disclosing that. That's Brady evidence. That is material information that is essential to the defense for the defendants to be able to mount an effective defense in their case. That's a violation of their constitutional right that they did not disclose that to the defense prior to their prosecutions. So everything about this reeks. The Department of Justice, the FBI, rigged these trials in order to frame these innocent Americans because it was for a political objective, and they failed. They still failed at it. So every single one of these defendants, I hope that they can be made whole. I don't know how you get back 4 years of your life. Some of them were incarcerated for years with no trial. I mean, you've got Jake Lang. He was incarcerated for 4 years with no trial.
Right.
I mean, it's just disgusting what they did to these people.
It really is. And the thing is, and you've had, I think, at least 2 that have committed suicide from the pressure of it all and the strain. And I think it's, and if you look at some sort of, lawsuit, the thing that disgusts me is that the taxpayer is going to end up paying for it. I know. I mean, it's not James Comey. It's not Hillary. It's not Nancy Pelosi for all that they've done. And this is why, people are all concerned, about Donald Trump and retribution. No, this is accountability.
Right.
You've broken the law and you have to pay the consequences. And one of the things I'd shared with another guest that I had is the thing about consequences, if it's not leveled on the individual that's responsible for the deed, then that consequence is shared. And in this case, it's going to be we, the people, sharing and carrying the burden of the consequence of the criminal activity of Nancy Pelosi and, the James Comeys and the Barack Obamas of the world.
Yeah, no, I think you're completely right. To the extent that any fault of theirs is shouldered by the American people, that's just another offense against the American people that they're required to pay for. So, whenever I have people ask me, say, well, don't you think it's wrong for Donald Trump to politicize or weaponize the Department of Justice or the justice system? First of all, he wasn't the one that weaponized it. It was the prior administrations, and it wasn't just Biden. Obama did as well, as you mentioned with the IRS cases. But Donald Trump isn't going after people because they went after him. He's going after people who came after us. Yes. And that's what he's doing. He is holding people accountable who targeted the American people unfairly. That's what this is.
Well, because if you don't, they'll always be there.
Yeah, they'll not only will they always be there, the next time they get in power, they will make it so painful for us that we never get another chance at running our own country. They will completely steal everything from us.
What you just said, I hope this is really landing on the minds and the brains of the American people. If we don't, then when it's their turn, I mean, you talk about retribution on steroids. Mm-hmm. I mean, it will really be out of control. And it was out of control during the Obama years and certainly under Biden and with Garland and that, right?
Yeah. I mean, look at what happened in 2016. In 2016, all of President Trump's base was chanting, lock her up, lock her up. They wanted Hillary Clinton in prison. Mm-hmm. And he got into office and said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let her heal. I'm going to let the nation heal.
Yeah. And thank you very much. What does she do as a thank you?
Right. They unleash hell on him and anybody who supported him. So if we thought that was bad, if we thought the Biden years were bad, now that Donald Trump actually is taking action, if he doesn't complete what he started, if the American people don't support him and whoever's following him to complete what he started, when they come back, it will be so much worse than the Biden administration. It will be unbearable. We won't ever get our country back.
I mean, it is really, sadly, it's that serious, but life's lessons teach us that, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and that's part of why I wrote Defiant. I mean, yes, there's a whole bunch of information about Mar-a-Lago in there and the Department of Justice and the back and forth with Donald Trump's cases and all of that, but it is my story. And I say it in there, yes, it's my story, but if we don't fix this, it will be yours. And it's horrific. I had 9 legal matters open in 3 years. I mean, why? Because I'm a staff attorney for the candidate of my choice.
Right.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
why? Why are all these cases open against me? I mean, it's horrific what they're doing, and people need to be aware. So yes, I want everybody to get all the information and the dirty gossip about Mar-a-Lago, but it's really important that people understand what they're doing to ordinary Americans, because I may be on the front line, but they're coming for you. They're coming for everybody after me.
Well,
So,
exactly. You and Donald Trump are in their way. You know,
yeah,
that's what it is.
yeah.
Your book, Defiant, as you write, is a bombshell expose of the lengths the left will go to maintain power and a call to action for Americans who refuse to let their country be lost to tyranny. And Christina, I mean, as I'm reading, I mean, we were so close to losing this.
We're in a better position now, but we're still close. Like,
Yeah.
it's not, it hasn't been decided. We're still in limbo. So I think the 2026 election is very important. I think 2028 is very important. And I think what the Trump administration does between now and then is very, very important. So we'll see how it plays out.
Well, thank God for SCOTUS too, right?
Yeah. And I think they're coming around. I think, the Amy Coney Barretts of the world initially were trying to play both sides, but I think they're starting to realize we're going to lose our country if we allow this, crazy takeover by the left. So yeah, SCOTUS is hitting some big wins.
Did you send your book to each one of the members?
Oh, that's a good idea. I haven't, but I will.
Yeah. I think they should. This is must read for them, because what you have exposed here, I can only imagine it, even with all your notes, as you're going through and reviewing everything. I mean, talk about a catharsis. I think that you had to just go through all kinds of evolutions as you're realizing just how bad this was.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm still in it. And so I feel a lot better now because the court has thrown out my indictment, but they haven't closed the case. And that's a very vulnerable place to be. And so, getting out of the Dominion case was a huge relief to me. That brought a lot of relief. But I still need to get out of this criminal case, me and all of my co-defendants.
Right. Exactly.
So
well, and the thing is about Dominion, see, I think that there's a little bit of a cloud between Dominion and Smartmatic, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and that's yet to be determined. I think that maybe Fox got a little excited, and maybe they're part of the Republican establishment, and why they surrendered and offered up Tucker Carlson as a sacrifice and paid all that money.
That is a sacrificial lamb.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But I think there's there's always more to the story, isn't there?
There's always more to the story, and I think there's a lot more coming out. Like I said, I think there's going to be some more information coming out from this administration. At least I hope so. We need to, in order to clean this up, we need more to come out from the government.
We got about 3 minutes left here, Christina. What's next? The next objective?
I think getting a few more indictments and actually forcing some of these folks to defend themselves for what appears to be crimes that they've committed. I think that goes a long way to show that people will be held accountable. We have to start putting these folks, and I say it's on the left, but it's on the right too. Showing these people that they're going to be held accountable if you break the law, and it's not just one-sided. And then some more exposure. Let's dig in more in the intel community, more in the FBI, and let's see what's really going on in there.
Can we expedite this? I mean, because Trump's got a little over 3 years remaining.
Yeah.
And, the clock is running, and the Democrats know how to play the clock.
They do. Well, that comes down to Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and at the moment, Lindsay Halligan, the U.S. attorney in Virginia, who's indicted Comey. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the game, right, is playing the clock. So I'm hopeful that they're on top of it and that they'll push this along as quickly as possible. It's up to Comey whether he wants a speedy trial. That's the right of a defendant to request a speedy trial, or if he wants to try to delay it. That'll be up to him. That's the right of the defendant. But I'm hopeful that DOJ is prepared either way.
Well, Christina Bobb, Defiant, Inside Mar-a-Lago Raid, and the left's ongoing lawfare. A minute left, Christina. Closing summary on this.
Yeah, please check it out. It will give you all the details. It will help frame the picture for you of everything that happened and continues to happen in our government. You can pick it up at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold. You can visit my website at ChristinaBobb.com or follow me on social media at Christina_Bobb.
Christina Bobb, you're awesome. Thank you for your service to the country as a Marine and as an attorney and fighting the good fight on behalf of we the people. Christina is the author of Defiant. She's an attorney in Washington, D.C. with an emphasis in national security law. Thank you for being with us, Christina. Take care. Godspeed.
Thank you so much, Bill.
You got it. Our thanks to Christina Bobb. Wow, what a story, huh? Boy, I'll tell you, this is one that you need to get your hands on, this book, and also this interview. Get it out to your friends and neighbors, because this really reveals the underbelly of what we're dealing with here in our country, and why we must do the things in order to preserve our Constitution and all our rights that go with it. Thank you, for being with us. God bless you. May God bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you. May he be gracious unto you and give you peace. Take care.